So there I am, 17 years old and thinking I've basically won the lottery when I meet Graham at this house party. He's 18, got this whole mature thing going on. And, within like 5 minutes, I can tell he's the type who's actually going somewhere in life, unlike all these other losers still living with their parents and working at gas stations. We start talking and he's telling me about his plans for college and this business degree he wants. And honestly, I'm already picturing myself with someone who's going to make real money someday instead of dating these broke idiots who think taking me to McDonald's counts as romance. When he asks for my number, I'm playing it cool, but inside I'm thinking how this is exactly the kind of guy my friends are going to be so jealous of. Moving in together after 6 months probably seems fast to most people, but when you know, right? Plus, his apartment is actually nice, not some disgusting bachelor pad with pizza boxes everywhere, and he's already talking about getting a better place once he graduates. I love how he plans everything out and actually has goals, unlike my ex who couldn't even remember to pick me up on time. Graham's got this whole 5-year plan mapped out, and he keeps saying we when he talks about the future, which honestly makes me feel pretty secure about where this is heading. My mom keeps making these comments about how I'm too young to be playing house, but she's been divorced twice, so maybe she's not the best person to take relationship advice from. The Australia trip when I'm 21 is absolutely incredible. And the best part is Graham pays for basically everything because he's already making decent money at this tech company. We're staying in these amazing hotels and eating at actual restaurants, not hostels and ramen like most people our age would be doing. And I keep thinking how lucky I am to be with someone who can actually afford to live well. He takes all these pictures of me on the beaches and keeps saying how he wants to remember every moment, which is sweet, I guess. Though sometimes he gets a little too sentimental about stuff. The New Zealand part is even better because he surprises me with this helicopter tour that costs like $800. And I'm posting all these photos on Facebook thinking about how jealous everyone back home must be. When he proposes on my 21st birthday, I'm not even that surprised because we've been talking about marriage for months. But the ring is way bigger than I expected, which shows he's really serious about impressing me. All my friends are losing their minds over the photos. And honestly, it feels pretty good to be the first one in our group to get engaged to someone who actually has his life together. We end up having this long engagement because he wants to save up for the perfect wedding, which is fine by me since it gives me more time to plan everything exactly how I want it. Sometimes I get a little impatient with how careful he is about money, but I guess that's better than being with someone who's completely irresponsible about finances. The wedding when I'm 26 is basically perfect, and Graham handles most of the expenses without even complaining about the cost. He keeps saying how he wants me to have everything I've dreamed of, and honestly, the whole day feels like something out of a magazine with all the flowers and the photographer he hired, dancing with him at the reception. I'm thinking about how this is exactly the life I'd pictured for myself. Married to someone successful who treats me well and can actually provide a good lifestyle. His family loves me. My family loves him. And everyone keeps commenting on what a perfect couple we make. The honeymoon in Italy is amazing too. Though, he spends a little too much time taking pictures instead of just enjoying the moment. Getting pregnant 2 years later isn't exactly planned, but Graham gets so excited about becoming a dad that his enthusiasm kind of rubs off on me. He immediately starts talking about converting the spare room into a nursery and researching all this stuff about cribs and car seats, which is sweet, even though he sometimes goes overboard with the preparation thing. When I'm having morning sickness, he brings me crackers in bed every day and never complains about me not being able to cook dinner, which honestly most guys probably wouldn't be that understanding about. The whole pregnancy, he's constantly asking how I'm feeling and if I need anything. And while it's nice to be taken care of, sometimes I feel like he's treating me like I'm made of glass or something. When Everly is born, Graham literally cries when he holds her for the first time, which is kind of embarrassing but also shows how much he cares, I suppose. He takes 2 weeks off work to help out at home. And honestly, he's probably better at the diaper changing thing than I am at first. Watching him with her, making all these silly faces and talking in that ridiculous baby voice, I can see he's going to be one of those dads who's completely wrapped around his daughter's finger. It's cute and all, but sometimes I wonder if he's going to turn into one of those guys who becomes boring once he has kids and stops caring about anything else. The first couple years of Everly's life are pretty good overall, though I definitely miss having more freedom to do whatever I want. Graham's making really good money now, so I don't have to work, which is nice. But staying home all day with a baby gets old pretty fast. He comes home every evening and immediately wants to play with Everly, which is great father behavior, I guess. But then he disappears outside for like 2 hours to smoke. And I'm stuck dealing with bath time and bedtime by myself. When I complain about it, he always says he needs that time to decompress from work. But, honestly, I'm the one dealing with a cranky toddler all day. So, who's really more stressed out here? By the time Everly turns 2, I'm starting to feel pretty restless about my whole life situation. Don't get me wrong, I love being provided for and not having to worry about money, but watching Graham come home every day and immediately light up a cigarette is getting really annoying. I keep thinking he's going to grow out of it as he gets older and more mature. But if anything, he seems more attached to that stupid habit than ever. When I bring it up, he gets defensive and says it helps him relax. But honestly, it just seems selfish to prioritize smoking over spending time with his family. Plus, the smell gets in his clothes, and it's gross when he tries to kiss me after being outside for an hour. When this job opportunity comes up in March 2020 to be a personal assistant to some company director, I'm actually excited about getting out of the house and having adult conversations again. The pay isn't amazing, but it's not really about the money since Graham makes plenty. It's more about feeling like I'm actually doing something with my brain instead of just changing diapers and reading the same picture books over and over. When I mention it to Graham, he gets this weird look on his face and starts asking all these questions about what kind of company it is and who I'd be working with. I tell him it's mostly men in the office, and he actually suggests maybe I should look for something else, which honestly pisses me off because who is he to tell me what jobs I can take? Starting the new position is like a breath of fresh air after being stuck at home for 2 years. The office environment is so much more interesting than I expected, and all the guys are actually pretty friendly and funny. My boss, Julian, is especially cool. He's got this confidence about him that's really attractive, and he actually listens when I talk instead of just nodding and thinking about other stuff like Graham does sometimes. The work itself isn't that challenging, but being around people who appreciate what I bring to the table feels really good after spending so much time feeling invisible as just a mom and wife. When the guys invite me to grab drinks after work, I start saying yes more often because honestly, I deserve to have some fun. About 3 weeks into the job, I notice I'm thinking about work even when I'm home, and Graham starts making these comments about how I seem distracted. He'll be talking to me, and I realize I haven't been listening because I'm thinking about something Julian said or planning what I'm going to wear tomorrow to look professional but also attractive. When Everly wants me to read to her, I find myself getting impatient because I'd rather be texting with my coworkers about some inside joke from the office. Graham keeps asking if everything's okay. And honestly, his constant questioning is starting to get on my nerves because can't a person just enjoy having something interesting in their life? The thing that really bothers me is how Graham assumes I should just be completely satisfied with our little domestic routine forever. Like he comes home from work and wants to hear about my day, but when I talk about the people I work with, he gets this look like he's analyzing everything I say. Then he goes outside to smoke for 2 hours while I deal with getting Everly dinner and cleaning up. And when he comes back and smelling like cigarettes, he wants to act like we're this happy family. I start leaving my wedding ring on the bathroom counter when I get ready for work because it gets in the way when I'm typing. And honestly, it feels kind of liberating not to have that constant reminder that I'm supposed to be defined by being someone's wife. We're at this family day out thing, and Everly's running around the playground while Graham and I are sitting on a bench, and he suddenly grabs my hand and asks where my wedding ring is. The way he says it all panicked and hurt immediately puts me on the defensive because honestly, it's just a piece of jewelry, and the fact that he's making such a big deal about it shows how insecure he is. I tell him I left it at home because I didn't want to lose it. But he's giving me this look like he knows I'm not telling the whole truth. Then he asks this question that just pisses me off completely. What's going on? Where has my wife gone? Like I'm supposed to be the exact same person forever just because we got married. Sitting there listening to him act all confused and worried. I realize I'm just done pretending everything is fine when it's not. I look at him holding Everly on his lap, both of them looking at me expectantly, and I think about how this is probably going to be my life for the next 20 years if I don't do something about it. So I tell him we need to talk when we get home, and the whole drive back he's trying to make conversation like normal, but I can barely focus on anything he's saying. All I can think about is how I've been feeling more alive in the past 3 weeks at work than I have in years. And maybe that's telling me something important about what I actually want from my life. When we get home and put Everly down for her nap, I just come out and say it because there's no point in dragging this out. I tell him I love him, but I'm not in love with him anymore. And I can see his whole face just crumble like I've physically hit him or something. He starts asking what he did wrong and whether we can work on things. But honestly, I'm already past that point because I've been thinking about this for weeks. I explain that he's a great dad and a great provider, but that's not enough anymore because I need more than just financial security and someone who's good with our daughter. When he suggests marriage counseling, I tell him it's too late because my mind is already made up. The conversation gets pretty intense when he starts begging me to reconsider and saying we can fix whatever's wrong. But I'm just sitting there thinking how pathetic it is that he's willing to completely change who he is just to keep me around. Like, if he was the right person for me, I wouldn't be feeling this way in the first place, right? I tell him I want to separate and that I'll need money to get my own place and start over. And even though he looks like I've just destroyed his entire world, he agrees to remortgage the house to give me $15,000. He also says he'll sell that stupid luxury SUV he bought and give me half the profits, which honestly is the least he can do considering I'm the one who's going to be starting completely over. The next few days are pretty awkward with both of us still living in the same house, but I spend most of my time calling my mom and telling her what's happening. She's actually really supportive and keeps saying how she's proud of me for putting myself first for once instead of just settling for being some guy's wife. My mom's been divorced 3 times, so she definitely knows what it's like to be stuck with men who don't appreciate what they have. And she keeps reminding me that I'm still young enough to find someone who will actually prioritize me. We have these long conversations about how men just expect women to sacrifice everything and never ask for anything in return. And honestly, it feels really good to have someone validate what I'm feeling instead of trying to talk me out of it. Moving into my own apartment feels like this huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and the first thing I do is download Tinder because honestly, I want to see what's out there. It's been so long since I've felt desired by anyone other than Graham, and within the first day I've got like 50 matches, which is a pretty good ego boost. Some of these guys are really attractive and successful, and they're all so eager to take me out and show me a good time. I start going on dates pretty regularly, and it's amazing how different it feels to be with men who are actually trying to impress me instead of just assuming I'll always be there no matter what they do. About 7 weeks after I moved out, I've been on 5 different dates, and honestly, I'm feeling more confident and attractive than I have in years. 2 of the guys I really connected with, and we ended up sleeping together, which felt incredible after being with the same person for 12 years. There's something so exciting about being with someone new who's exploring your body for the first time and actually paying attention to what you like. I'm finally feeling like myself again instead of just Graham's wife or Everly's mom. And when these guys text me throughout the day, it's such a rush to know that multiple people find me interesting and desirable. Then Graham calls me out of nowhere, saying he wants closure and asking direct questions about whether I've been seeing other people. At first, I try to avoid the topic because honestly, it's none of his business what I do now that we're separated, but he keeps pushing. And finally, I just tell him the truth. I explain that I've been on 5 dates and that I slept with 2 of them. And the silence on the other end of the phone is so long, I actually check to see if he hung up. When he finally responds, he sounds completely broken, asking how I could move on so fast and whether I ever really loved him at all. The thing that really bothers me about his reaction is how he's acting like I've committed some terrible crime by dating other people when we're literally separated. I try to explain that I needed to feel wanted and appreciated, which is something I wasn't getting from him. But he just keeps saying he can't believe I threw away 12 years for some random guys I met on an app. Finally, I just lose it and tell him the truth that I've been thinking for weeks. I need to prioritize my happiness over his, and honestly over Everly's too. Because I can't be a good mother if I'm miserable in my own life. The way he reacts to that, like I've said something completely shocking, just proves how little he actually understood about what I was going through. After that phone call, I feel even more confident that I made the right decision because clearly Graham was never going to understand that I'm a person with my own needs and desires. I keep dating and having fun, and about 8 months later I meet Julian again outside of work and we really hit it off. He's confident and successful, and he actually pursues me, instead of just assuming I'll stick around like Graham always did. When we make our relationship official on Facebook, I make sure to post lots of photos of us looking happy together because honestly, I want everyone to see how much better my life is now that I'm with someone who actually appreciates me. Being with Julian is so different from being married to Graham because he actually makes an effort to keep things exciting and romantic. We go out to nice restaurants and take weekend trips, and he's always telling me how beautiful I am and how lucky he feels to be with me. Sure, he hasn't talked about moving in together or anything that serious, but we're still getting to know each other, and I don't want to rush into anything too quickly this time. The sex is amazing, and he's always surprising me with little gifts or planning fun dates, which is such a refreshing change from the boring routine I had with Graham. The only downside is that I don't get to see Everly as much as I used to. But honestly, she seems fine when she's with Graham and his family, spoils her constantly anyway. I make sure to spend quality time with her when I have her. And I think it's probably good for her to see her mom happy and fulfilled instead of just going through the motions like I was before. When she gets older, she'll understand that sometimes people need to make difficult choices to live authentic lives. And I'd rather be a happy part-time mom than a miserable full-time one. But lately, I've been thinking more about my old life and wondering if maybe I made some mistakes in how I handled everything. Julian still hasn't brought up anything about the future. And when I hint about maybe spending more time together, he always changes the subject. I see Graham sometimes when I pick up Everly, and he looks really good, like he's been working out and taking care of himself, and he's always polite but distant when we talk. I heard from a mutual friend that he's been dating other women, which honestly bothers me more than I expected it to because he never seemed like the type to move on that quickly. So, I finally decided to reach out to him and try to have an honest conversation about everything that happened. I sent him this really heartfelt text explaining how I've been thinking about our relationship and how maybe we both made mistakes. I apologized for some of the hurtful things I said and asked if he thought there was any possibility of us trying again, but he never even responded, which honestly just shows how stubborn and unforgiving he can be. I mean, I get that he's hurt, but if he really loved me, wouldn't he at least want to talk about working things out? The thing that really frustrates me is how he just gave up without even trying to fight for us. Like when we first got together, he would have done anything to make me happy. But when our marriage was actually in trouble, he just accepted my decision and moved on with his life. I keep thinking about how different things might be if he had actually chased after me and shown me how much I meant to him instead of just letting me walk away. Now he's apparently dating all these other women and acting like he's perfectly fine without me, which honestly seems pretty cold considering we have a daughter together. I tried calling him a few weeks ago and actually got through, and I asked him directly why he never fought for our relationship. His response was so typical. He said he respected my decision and that he's not going to beg someone to stay who doesn't want to be there. But that's exactly the problem because sometimes people need to see how much they're valued instead of just being taken for granted. I explained that I needed more attention and affection than he was giving me, and that if he had made more effort to make me feel special, maybe things would have been different. He listened to everything I said and then told me he hopes I'm happy with Julian and that he's moved on with his life. When I asked if he could ever forgive me for the way things ended, he was quiet for a long time and then said some things can't be undone. Honestly, that's such a cop-out because people make mistakes in relationships all the time. And if you really love someone, you should be willing to work through problems instead of just holding grudges forever. I think he's just being stubborn and trying to punish me for choosing my own happiness over his comfort zone. The more I think about it, the more I realize that I'm probably missing my old life more than I'm missing him specifically. Like having that financial security and not having to worry about rent or bills was really nice, and I miss having daily access to Everly instead of just seeing her on weekends. Julian's great and all, but he's not exactly in the same financial league as Graham. And sometimes I wonder if I gave up too much stability for what turned out to be just excitement and novelty. But then I remember how bored and unappreciated I felt in my marriage. And I think about how I deserve to be with someone who actually prioritizes making me happy instead of just assuming I'll stick around no matter what.